Hi, my name is Shailesh Singh and I make videos and podcasts on all things in cardiology. We talk about general cardiology, cardiovascular interventions, cardiovascular imaging, recent advances in cardiology, recent controversies in cardiology. So make sure to subscribe CardioEd YouTube channel and podcast for more of that. In this episode of CardioEd, we'll be talking about antiplatelets. In patients undergoing PCI, a loading dose of aspirin followed by daily dosing is recommended to reduce ischemic events. And this is class 1 recommendation. In patients with ACS undergoing PCI, a loading dose of P2Y12 inhibitor followed by daily dosing is recommended to reduce ischemic events, and this is again class 1 recommendation. In patients with stable ischemic heart disease undergoing PCI, a loading dose of clopidogrel followed by daily dosing is recommended to reduce ischemic events, and this is again class 1 recommendation. In patients undergoing PCI, within 24 hours after fibrinolytic therapy, a loading dose of 300 mg of clopidogrel followed by daily dosing is recommended to reduce ischemic events, and this is again class 1 recommendation. In patients with ACS undergoing PCI, it is reasonable to use ticagrelor or prasugrel in preference to clopidogrel to reduce ischemic events including stent thrombosis, and this is class 2A recommendation. In patients less than 75 years of age undergoing PCI within 24 hours of fibrinolytic therapy, ticagrelor may be a reasonable alternative to clopidogrel to reduce ischemic events, and this is class 2B recommendation. In patients undergoing PCI who have a history of stroke or TIA, that is transient ischemic attack, prasugrel should not be administered. This is class 3 recommendation. So dual antiplatelet therapy, which includes aspirin and an oral P2Y12 inhibitor, is the cornerstone of therapy after PCI. It prevents the thrombotic complications which are seen with PCI. The P2Y12 inhibitors that are used in current practice include clopidogrel, ticagrelor, and prasugrel. So patients who are going to be treated with PCI or undergoing PCI should be loaded with these agents. Clopidogrel is the least potent of all these three, and it requires the longest time for platelet inhibition after a loading dose. In patients with stable angina, we do not have the evidence to support routine pre-treatment with a P2Y12 inhibitor before angiography is done. This is important because majority of the patients might need coronary artery bypass grafting, and if these are treated with clopidogrel, this might delay the surgery. The Prague 8 trial, which was conducted in 1000 patients with stable ischemic heart disease, had stratified the patients in two groups. One group received the non-selective clopidogrel, the other received selective clopidogrel. What was non-selective clopidogrel? Non-selective clopidogrel was 600 mg of clopidogrel was given more than 6 hours before angiography in every patient. And what was selective clopidogrel group? Selective clopidogrel group was the group in which 600 mg of clopidogrel was given in the cath lab after angiography only in patients in whom PCI was planned. The primary endpoint in this trial was death, periprocedural MI, stroke, or re-intervention in 7 days. The Prague 8 trial found that loading dose of clopidogrel before elective coronary angiography increased the risk of minor bleeding complications, while the benefit on periprocedural infarction was not significant. And they recommended that clopidogrel can be given safely in the cath lab between angiography and PCI in chronic ischemic heart disease. Aspirin. So aspirin decreases the ischemic complications after PCI and should be given in the periprocedural period. How to administer it? So non-enteric coated tablets of 325 mg of aspirin should be given before PCI in the patients who were not previously on aspirin. When patients are being given ticagrelor, less than 100 mg per day of aspirin should be used, and this was shown in the Plateau trial. And if patients are having acute coronary syndrome, it is better to use chewable aspirin tablets than the solid tablet, P2Y12 inhibitors. So P2Y12 inhibitors are necessary for patients undergoing PCI. In the very early era of P2Y12 inhibitors, ticlopidine was found to be superior to aspirin alone or the combinations of aspirin and anticoagulant therapy. However, it had very unacceptable side effect profile, so later on it was replaced by clopidogrel. How do we routinely administer a P2Y12 inhibitor? We usually give it after a loading dose. We usually load the patient with a P2Y12 inhibitor then give it continuously. When we start a P2Y12 inhibitor in a patient, a loading dose of P2Y12 inhibitor is usually given to minimize the time to platelet inhibition. Should we give pre-treatment in patients with NST-ACS or not? Various trials have tried to answer this question. One of those trials was ACOST trial. In the ACOST trial, 4,000 patients with NST-ACS who had elevated troponin levels and were scheduled to undergo coronary angiography within 2 to 48 hours after randomization were included. Patients were randomized to receive either prasugrel 30 mg loading dose before the angiography or placebo. If PCI was indicated, an additional 30 mg of prasugrel was given to the pre-treatment group at the time of PCI, and 60 mg of prasugrel was given in the control group, that is the group which received placebo initially. The primary endpoint was a composite of death from cardiovascular causes, myocardial infarction, stroke, urgent revascularization, or GP2B inhibitor rescue therapy within 7 days. The primary endpoint did not differ between the two groups. TIMI major bleeds were more common in the pre-treatment group. The trial has concluded that pre-treatment with prasugrel did not reduce the rate of major ischemic events up to 30 days but increased the rate of major bleeding complications. Dubious trial. The goal of Dubious study was to compare the upstream and downstream oral P2Y12 inhibitor administration in patients with NST-ACS who were undergoing invasive treatment. This was an open-label multicentric study. Patients were randomized to two groups. One was the ticagrelor pre-treatment group, this was the upstream group, or no pre-treatment group, this was the downstream group. Patients in the downstream group undergoing PCI were randomized to receive ticagrelor or prasugrel. The primary hypothesis was the superiority of downstream versus the upstream strategy on the combination of safety and efficacy events, that is net clinical benefits. The trial included approximately 1500 patients. They were randomized to two groups, upstream therapy and downstream therapy. The trial has found that both strategies were associated with low incidence of ischemic and bleeding events and minimal numeric difference of event rates between the treatment groups. There were similar rates of primary endpoints between the two treatment groups. CREDO trial compared the pre-treatment with no pre-treatment with clopidogrel prior to elective PCI. Approximately 2,000 patients were included in this study. Mean follow-up was 1 year, and patients included in this study were symptomatic CAD patients with objective evidence of ischemia. Patients were randomized to receive either 300 mg of clopidogrel with 325 mg of aspirin versus 325 mg of aspirin plus placebo 3 to 24 hours before the PCI. At the time of PCI, all patients were started on 75 mg of clopidogrel and 325 mg of aspirin once a day for 28 days. The trial has found that clopidogrel pre-treatment showed a non-significant reduction in primary endpoint of death, MI, or urgent target vessel revascularization by 28 days. There was a trend towards lower event rate if 300 mg of clopidogrel was given more than 3 hours before the PCI. A 600 mg of loading dose of clopidogrel is associated with shorter time to platelet inhibition and is usually the preferred dose. So based on these data, what we understand is that a loading dose of a P2Y12 inhibitor is necessary to minimize the time to platelet inhibition. But there is conflicting data regarding preloading in patients with NST-ACS, particularly when the anatomy is not known. In the contemporary times, most of the patients with acute coronary syndrome undergoing early angiography, a strategy of loading with a P2Y12 inhibitor after the coronary anatomy is known offers similar benefit to preloading. Patients with ST segment elevation MI who were treated with fibrinolytic therapy and are being considered for PCI, they are at increased risk of bleeding and ischemia. Clopidogrel is the only P2Y12 inhibitor which has been studied in the patients who have received fibrinolytic therapy. The CLARITY trial found that clopidogrel pre-treatment along with fibrinolysis decreased the cardiovascular death or recurrent MI or stroke at 30 days by 46%. Both the groups had similar major and minor bleeding rates. A loading dose of 600 mg can be useful for most of the patients, whereas a 300 mg loading dose is usually used for older patients or patients who are at higher bleeding risk. In patients who have received fibrinolysis, ticagrelor can also be used. Ticagrelor is associated with greater inhibition of platelet reactivity than seen with clopidogrel. The TREAT trial, which was published a few years ago, found that ticagrelor was non-inferior to clopidogrel in terms of TIMI major bleeding, fatal bleeding and intracranial hemorrhage. Based on the results of TREAT trial, post-fibrinolysis ticagrelor therapy has been given a class 2B recommendation. The results of TRITON-TIMI 38 and PLATEAU trial have shown that in patients with ACS, it is always better to use more potent P2Y12 inhibitors. Both these trials had compared prasugrel and ticagrelor with clopidogrel and had found that the more potent P2Y12 inhibitors when compared to clopidogrel reduce the composite endpoints of death from vascular causes, MI or stroke, and they also had lower rate of stent thrombosis. These more potent agents should be used with caution in older patients. And in patients who are at high bleeding risk or elderly, in those patients, clopidogrel may be a reasonable alternative. The contraindications of P2Y12 inhibitors should always be remembered while prescribing them. So, contraindications to ticagrelor include previous intracranial hemorrhage or ongoing bleeding. Contraindications to prasugrel include previous intracranial hemorrhage, previous ischemic stroke or transient ischemic attack or ongoing bleeding. Prasugrel should be used at a lower dose in patients who are more than 75 years of age or who have a body weight of less than 60 kg. The TRITON-TIMI 38 trial found that prasugrel demonstrated no benefit compared to clopidogrel when it was given to the patients with a less than 60 kg body weight or more than 75 years of age, and it had harmed the patients who had a history of previous TIA or cerebrovascular attack. Now, about the intravenous P2Y12 inhibitors. In patients undergoing PCI who are P2Y12 inhibitor naive, IV cangrelor may be a reasonable alternative to reduce periprocedural ischemic events. What is cangrelor? Cangrelor is a potent, direct, reversible, short-acting IV P2Y12 inhibitor. It has got a rapid onset of platelet inhibition and its platelet functions are restored within 1 hour of cangrelor discontinuation. It provides predictable and rapid and profound inhibition of platelets. It is highly efficacious in preventing stent thrombosis, and it should be considered in the patients who have never received a P2Y12 inhibitor or in the patients where oral absorption of medicines may be inhibited or patients who are unable to take medicine. 3 trials have evaluated the benefits of cangrelor, and these are Champion Platform trial, Champion PCI trial and Champion Phoenix trial. The earlier trials, that is Champion Platform and Champion PCI trial, were negative. The Champion Phoenix trial, which was published a few years back, had found that the primary endpoint of death, MI, ischemia-driven revascularization or stent thrombosis was significantly reduced with cangrelor. This was primarily due to reduction in periprocedural MI and reduction in intraprocedural stent thrombosis. Studies have found that cangrelor leads to 41% reduction in stent thrombosis. Glycoprotein 2B3 inhibitors. So GP2B3 inhibitors are used in patients undergoing PCI. In patients with acute coronary syndrome undergoing PCI with large thrombus burden or no reflow or slow flow, IV GP2B3 inhibitors are reasonable to improve procedural success, and this is class 2A recommendation. In patients with stable ischemic heart disease undergoing PCI, the routine use of GP2B3 inhibitors is not recommended. GP2B3 inhibitors are direct-acting antiplatelet agents. They inhibit the glycoprotein 2B3A receptors which are present on the platelets. Now that we have potent dual antiplatelet therapy available with us with improved stent technology, the role of GP2B3 inhibitors has shrunken in the field of interventional cardiology. Their use is reserved in patients with ACS who develop either slow flow, no flow, or have got large thrombus burden. And trials have found that if they are used in patients with stable ischemic heart disease, there is more harm than benefit. What about the antiplatelet therapy in patients undergoing PCI? So in patients undergoing CABG who are already taking daily aspirin preoperatively, it is recommended that they continue taking aspirin until the time of surgery to reduce ischemic events. And this is class 1 recommendation. In patients referred for urgent CABG, clopidogrel and ticagrelor should be discontinued at least 24 hours before surgery to reduce major bleeding complications. And this is class 1 recommendation. In patients undergoing CABG, discontinuation of short-acting GP2B3 inhibitors, that is eptifibatide and tirofiban for 4 hours and abciximab for 12 hours before surgery is recommended to reduce the risk of bleeding and transfusion. And this is class 1 recommendation. In patients undergoing elective CABG who receive P2Y12 inhibitors before surgery, it is reasonable to discontinue clopidogrel 5 days before the surgery, ticagrelor 3 days before the surgery, and prasugrel 7 days before the surgery. And this is class 2A recommendation. A short mnemonic would be TCP. Ticagrelor 3 days before the surgery, clopidogrel 5 days before the surgery, and prasugrel 7 days before the surgery. In patients undergoing elective CABG who are already not taking aspirin, the initiation of aspirin in immediate preoperative period is not recommended. What is immediate preoperative period? Immediate preoperative period is less than 24 hours before the surgery. This is class 3 recommendation. Most patients who are undergoing CABG are already on aspirin for either primary prevention of cardiovascular events or secondary prevention of cardiovascular events. The trials have shown that if the existing preoperative aspirin is continued, there is a reduction in risk of MI but not death. The trials have also found that continuation of aspirin until the time of surgery is associated with increased risk of perioperative bleeding and transfusion, but this does not increase the likelihood of surgical reoperation. Aspirin is usually co-administered with a P2Y12 inhibitor in patients with ACS or history of recent PCI. And if CABG is performed within 5 days of clopidogrel administration, it has been found that there is increased risk of tamponade and reoperation. So it is ideally recommended that clopidogrel should be discontinued at least 5 days before the elective CABG. Similarly, for ticagrelor, at least 3 days of discontinuation of ticagrelor before the surgery is recommended, and for prasugrel, 7 days of prasugrel discontinuation is recommended. The recently published early CABG trial might change the recommendation in the future, but for now, the standard protocol is discontinuing clopidogrel 5 days before the surgery, ticagrelor 3 days before the surgery, and prasugrel is discontinued 7 days before the surgery. About dual antiplatelet therapy after PCI. So, in patients undergoing PCI, a shorter term dual antiplatelet therapy, that is 1 to 3 months, is reasonable with subsequent transition to P2Y12 inhibitor monotherapy to reduce the risk of bleeding events. Then this is class 2A recommendation. If the patient is undergoing PCI for acute coronary syndrome, then 12 months of dual antiplatelet therapy is class 1 recommendation. And more than 12 months dual antiplatelet therapy is class 2B recommendation. If the patient is undergoing PCI for acute coronary syndrome, then 1 to 3 months of dual antiplatelet therapy followed by P2Y12 inhibitor monotherapy is class 2A recommendation. If the patient is undergoing PCI for acute coronary syndrome and has got high bleeding risk, then discontinuation of P2Y12 inhibitors after 6 months may be reasonable, and this is class 2B recommendation. If the patient is undergoing PCI for stable ischemic heart disease or stable CAD, then 6 months of dual antiplatelet therapy is class 1 recommendation, and more than 6 months of dual antiplatelet therapy is class 2B recommendation. That is, may be reasonable. If the patient is undergoing PCI for stable ischemic heart disease, then 1 to 3 months of dual antiplatelet therapy followed by P2Y12 inhibitor monotherapy is class 2A recommendation. If the patient is undergoing PCI for stable ischemic heart disease and has got high bleeding risk, then 3 months of dual antiplatelet therapy followed by discontinuation of P2Y12 inhibitor may be reasonable, and this is class 2B recommendation. If the patient receives bare metal stents for PCI and stable ischemic heart disease, then at least 1 month of dual antiplatelet therapy is class 1 recommendation. If more than 1 month of dual antiplatelet therapy is considered in these patients, this is class 2B recommendation. What new practice has evolved after the results of 3 or 4 trials in the recent times is that we are discontinuing aspirin after 1 to 3 months of dual antiplatelet therapy, and then P2Y12 inhibitor monotherapy is being continued for life. This practice is based on the results of some new trials which include Twilight trial, Global Leader trial, GLASSY sub-study of Global Leader trial, Smart Choice trial, Stopped DAP2 trial, or TICO trial. We'll talk about these trials in this discussion. So, Twilight trial was published in New England Journal of Medicine in the year 2019. It was a double-blind placebo-controlled trial. In this trial, 7,000 patients who were high risk, who had undergone PCI, were included. The clinical criteria for high risk included age more than 65 years, female 6, TROP-T positive acute coronary syndrome, established vascular disease, diabetes mellitus, chronic kidney disease. Angiographic criteria for high risk included multivessel disease, total stent length more than 30 mm, thrombotic target lesion, bifurcation lesion with 2 stents, obstructive left main coronary artery disease, or proximal LED. These were the patients who were at high risk for ischemic or bleeding event. Patients were excluded if they had ST segment elevation, MI, cardiogenic shock, or had contraindication to aspirin or ticagrelor. Patients were given aspirin and ticagrelor for 3 months, and after 3 months, they were receiving either ticagrelor plus aspirin or ticagrelor plus placebo. The trial found that ticagrelor monotherapy was associated with lower incidence of clinically relevant bleeding with no higher risk of death, MI, or stroke. The global leader trial was randomized international multicentric open-label superiority trial. In this, patients who underwent PCI with biolimus eluting stents were included. These patients received this stent for either stable CAD or acute coronary syndrome. Patients were given aspirin plus ticagrelor for 1 month, followed by 90 mg of ticagrelor for 23 months, or standard dual antiplatelet therapy, which consisted of aspirin plus clopidogrel in case of stable CAD or aspirin plus ticagrelor in case of ACS for 12 months. This was followed by aspirin monotherapy for 12 months. The global leader trials and the GLASSY sub-study of this study found that ticagrelor therapy was non-inferior but not superior to standard dual antiplatelet therapy in prevention of all-cause mortality or new Q-wave MI. Both groups had similar bleeds. The GLASSY sub-study was presented in ACC 2019, and it showed that discontinuation of aspirin after 30 days does not expose the patient to higher ischemic risk compared to standard dual antiplatelet therapy at 1 year, and it may decrease the risk of MI and stent thrombosis compared to aspirin alone. TICO trial. TICO trial included 3,000 patients with acute coronary syndrome. Out of these, 30% patients were having unstable angina, 36% patients had ST segment elevation MI, and 34% patients had non-ST segment elevation MI. These patients received ultra-thin bioresorbable polymer sirolimus eluting stent. They were randomized into 2 groups. One group received 3 months of dual antiplatelet therapy based on ticagrelor, and the other group received 12 months of dual antiplatelet therapy. The 3 months dual antiplatelet therapy group received ticagrelor monotherapy in the dose of 90 mg twice a day after the completion of 3 months. The trial found that there was no significant difference in major adverse cardiovascular and cerebrovascular events in between the 2 groups at 1 year, and there was significantly lower risk of major bleed in the ticagrelor monotherapy arm. STOP-DAPT-2 trial. STOP-DAPT-2 trial compared the 1 month of dual antiplatelet therapy versus 12 months of dual antiplatelet therapy in patients undergoing PCI with cobalt chromium everolimus eluting stent. The patients who were in 1 month dual antiplatelet therapy arm, they received clopidogrel monotherapy for 5 years after the completion of 1 month. And the patients who were in 12-month dual antiplatelet therapy arm received aspirin after first year for 5 years. A total of 3,000 patients were included in this study, and they were followed for a period of 1 year. 62% of the patients in this study were stable CAD, 38% patients had ACS. The primary endpoint was a composite of cardiovascular events and bleeding events, and it included cardiovascular death, MI, stent thrombosis, stroke, TIMI, major or minor bleeds. The primary endpoint was more frequently present in 12-month dual antiplatelet therapy group. The trial is concluded that 1 month of dual antiplatelet therapy followed by clopidogrel monotherapy was non-inferior to 12 months of dual antiplatelet therapy followed by aspirin monotherapy at preventing net adverse clinical events. They also found that 1 month of dual antiplatelet therapy was non-inferior to 12 months of dual antiplatelet therapy at preventing major adverse cardiovascular events and superior to 12 months dual antiplatelet therapy at preventing TIMI major or minor bleeds. SMART Choice Trial. SMART Choice Trial was an open-label, non-inferiority randomized trial. The goal of this trial was to compare the safety and efficacy of short-term dual antiplatelet therapy, that is 3 months, with longer duration dual antiplatelet therapy, that is 12 months. In this trial, approximately 3,000 patients who underwent PCI were included. They were randomized into two groups. One group received aspirin plus P2Y12 inhibitor for a period of 3 months. This was followed by P2Y12 inhibitor monotherapy, and the other group received 12 months of dual antiplatelet therapy, which consisted of aspirin plus P2Y12 inhibitor. 60% of the patients in this study had acute coronary syndrome. 50% of the patients had multivessel disease. Primary endpoint was major adverse cardiovascular and cerebrovascular events. This was a composite of all-cause death, MI, and stroke at 12 months after the procedure. Clopidogrel was used in 75% of the patients in monotherapy group and dual antiplatelet therapy group. Ticagrelor and prasugrel were used in approximately 25% patients in the monotherapy and the dual antiplatelet therapy group. This trial found that short-term dual antiplatelet therapy is non-inferior to long-term dual antiplatelet therapy, and bleeding was lower in P2Y12 inhibitor monotherapy group. So, based on the recommendations of these studies, we now believe that discontinuation of aspirin after 1 to 3 months of dual antiplatelet therapy with aspirin and P2Y12 inhibitor may be a good decision for both patients undergoing PCI for stable CAD or ACS. Antiplatelet therapy in patients after CABG. In patients undergoing coronary artery bypass grafting, aspirin in the dose of 100 to 325 milligrams should be initiated within 6 hours postoperatively and then continued indefinitely to reduce the events of saphenous venous graft closure and adverse cardiovascular events. And this is class 1 recommendation. In patients undergoing CABG, dual antiplatelet therapy with aspirin and ticagrelor or clopidogrel for 1 year may be reasonable to improve vein graft patency compared to aspirin alone, and this is class 2B recommendation. The older data has shown that aspirin improves vein graft patency and it reduces the ischemic complications. That is why aspirin after CABG is class 1 recommendation. What about the DAPT? DAPT after coronary artery bypass grafting improves vein graft patency, especially in the patients who are undergoing off-pump CABG or those patients who have got higher syntax score. The DACAP trial compared dual antiplatelet therapy with single antiplatelet regimen in approximately 500 patients undergoing coronary artery bypass grafting. 75% of these patients had undergone off-pump CABG. At 1 year, the trial is found that DAPT group had higher vein graft patency when assessed with CT angiogram compared with aspirin alone. So that is why the current recommendation is dual antiplatelets may be reasonable in patients who undergo coronary artery bypass grafting, and this is class 2B recommendation. This discussion was about aspirin and oral P2Y12 inhibitors in patients undergoing PCI and CABG. You were listening to CardioEd. We'll meet again in the next episode.